Hey guys, in this month's Historical Fiction 101, I'm going to be sharing some historical TV shows that you guys can watch, especially since Game of Thrones is not on this year. So I was trying to think of a Historical Fiction 101 video to do for this month, and I started thinking, you know what? Normally we watch Game of Thrones during the summer, but Game of Thrones ain't coming back until sometime in 2019, unfortunately. So what the hell are you supposed to watch with no Game of Thrones in your life? So I compiled a list of some TV shows that I think you guys would enjoy if you haven't watched them already, to kind of fill that Game of Thrones void. These are shows that are just as good as Game of Thrones, if not better than Game of Thrones, in my opinion. So yeah, a Game of Thrones, it is a fantasy show, but George R.R. Martin, the writer of the books, he has expressed in interviews that Game of Thrones is based a lot or influenced by a lot of historical characters or figures, historical events, historical locations. So yeah, I figured this would be a good topic of, just kind of talking about some of my favorite historical TV shows, historical period dramas, shows that I think you guys would like if you like Game of Thrones. George R.R. Martin has stated previously that a lot of Game of Thrones is heavily influenced by the War of the Roses. And yeah, the War of the Roses, this is like prior to the Tudor dynasty in medieval England and whatnot. About the 1400s, somewhere in that time range, if I'm getting that correct. So yeah, if you like the War of the Roses, it's essentially this rivalry between the factions of the House of York and the House of Lancaster, which on Game of Thrones translates to the rivalry between the Starks and the Lannisters. So yeah, if you like the War of the Roses, I highly recommend the first two seasons of The Hollow Crown. And The Hollow Crown, these are the classic Shakespearean plays. So yeah, what you get with the two seasons of The Hollow Crown, it's all done in Shakespearean verse. So you need to like Shakespeare for one thing before you get into this, because you need to be able to understand it. The thing is, I think if you are familiar with the War of the Roses and just English monarchies, I think you'll probably be able to get through this just fine, just kind of understanding what's going on through context, I suppose, even if the Shakespearean kind of throws you off and you don't understand half the time what they're saying. But yeah, The Hollow Crown, the first two seasons, it starts off with King Richard II, then moves to Henry IV, then Henry V, and that's all season 1. And then season 2 is where we do get more into the War of the Roses, and then that starts with Henry VI and ends with Richard III. So yeah, I definitely highly recommend The Hollow Crown. I really love both seasons. And yeah, talk about some fantastic actors, because there's Ben Whishaw and Jeremy Irons and Tom Hiddleston and Benedict Cumberbatch. Oh my goodness, I love it. But yeah, continuing with some more War of the Roses, because I love the War of the Roses, you guys. I also recommend The White Queen and The White Princess. And whoo, my goodness, you guys, seriously, so freaking good, both of these miniseries. Both based off of the books by Philippa Gregory, which I love. So yeah, if you want to, after you're done with watching The White Queen and The White Princess, I think the best next thing to go to, just kind of continue the English monarchy, if you will, go to The Tutors, starring Jonathan Rhys-Meyers. Plus, Game of Thrones, you guys, Natalie Dormer, who plays Marjorie Tyrell, she plays Anne Boleyn on this show. People have issues with The Tutors, but I personally really love The Tutors. I think it was really well done. Yeah, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, he's not fat like King Henry VIII, but to me that didn't really matter. I think what Jonathan Rhys-Meyers excelled at was just kind of, Henry VIII's fluctuating personality and his mood swings, But yeah, seriously, you guys, if you kind of want to get into the English monarchy thing and all of that and whatnot, it's definitely best to start with the Hollow Crown, move into the White Queen and the White Princess, end on the Tutors, and then yeah, maybe go into the Elizabeth movies. That would be great. You know, the ones with Cate Blanchett. That would be, man, that would be a great binge marathon watching all that, wouldn't it? My next recommendation here is Black Sails. This show had 3 seasons, all brilliant, terrific seasons in my opinion. And what Black Sails is about, it's about piracy, you know, early, I guess, is it 18th century piracy? And yeah, it's about these different groups of pirates who are all trying to get their hands on this specific island, you know, and yeah, not only this island, but yeah, they're off trying to get treasures and, you know, really trying to make a stand for themselves, and yeah, also having to deal with, you know, the British Navy and whatnot. And yeah, Black Sails is just truly magnificent, you guys, and yeah, it stars Toby Stephens as the leading character. I love him in this role. And yeah, it is kind of loosely based, or influenced, I suppose. It's loosely influenced by Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. So you do have a few Treasure Island characters that make appearances. But yeah, if you've not watched Black Sails, you guys, I think you would enjoy it. And yeah, I mean, it's like Game of Thrones in a way. Like I said, all of these pirate rivalries going on, and yeah, they're all trying to get hold of this one specific island, you know, who is going to be king of this island, essentially. Next, I recommend the Borgias, especially if you love the twisted dynamics of the Lannisters on Game of Thrones. The Borgias are pretty much the Lannisters, I'm not even joking. Yeah, the Borgias, if you don't know who the Borgias were, they were an Italian Renaissance family. Pope Rodrigo VI did some truly twisted things, and yeah, his children, you have Cesare Borgia, Lucrezia Borgia. Yeah, you got some incest kind of in there. You got a lot of poisonings and murders, and yeah, it's very reminiscent of the Lannisters. And yeah, this was a Showtime series. It only had 3 seasons, unfortunately. It was supposed to have a 4th, but it got canceled at the last minute. So yeah, you got 3 seasons to enjoy, and I definitely recommend it. It's very good in my opinion. Next, Vikings, especially if you love the Greyjoy family on Game of Thrones, because yeah, whenever I watch Vikings, and then yeah, when I sit and watch Game of Thrones, and you know, you see the Greyjoys, the Greyjoys have a very Viking-like culture in some ways, and I think George R. R. Martin has said that previously, that he did kind of base them off of, you know, Vikings and whatnot. So yeah, the TV show Vikings, it's a History Channel show. Right now, it has, is it in its 5th season right now? Oh my goodness, does it have that many seasons? I think it's in its 5th season right now, and it's still going. And yeah, it follows the early Vikings, and it follows one man specifically named Ragnar Lothbrok, and yet his family, his children, and yeah, kind of a family saga in some ways. And yeah, Vikings is amazing, you guys. It's brutal and raw and really dramatic, and yeah, you just really get into the Viking culture, and it's not stereotypical. You know, I think we have very stereotypical ideas of what the Vikings were like, and yeah, this is just a really true rendering, I think, of the Vikings. And like I said, if you love the Greyjoy family on Game of Thrones, I think you would definitely really love this show. My next recommendation is kind of just an obvious one, and that's Gunpowder, just because Kit Harington's in it, who plays Jon Snow on Game of Thrones. Yeah, Gunpowder just aired, I think, several months ago, if I'm not mistaken, and it only had 3 episodes. It was just like a 3-episode miniseries, essentially. And yeah, Gunpowder, it's about, I think it's the 1603, if I got my history right? It's the 1603 Gunpowder plot, where, you know, notorious figures like Guy Fawkes were trying to blow up Parliament and kill the King, King James. And yeah, Kit Harington is playing their leader. Is it Thomas Catesby, if I'm getting his name correct? And yeah, who Kit Harington was actually in real life related to, that man Catesby. And yeah, he was the leader of the whole Gunpowder plot. And yeah, like I said, you have Guy Fawkes and how he weaves into things. So yeah, obviously Gunpowder for Kit Harington, but yeah, I mean, it's also, you know, England and, you know, people trying to make a stand against the King of England and thinking this is the best way. And yeah, a lot of the issues between the Protestants and the Catholics, that's a big issue going on. Next, Nightfall. And I'm not going to spend too much time sitting here talking about Nightfall because I did do a Historical Fiction 101 previously where I talked about Nightfall in a lot more detail. But yeah, Nightfall takes place, is it like the 1100s or 1200s, somewhere in that time frame? And yeah, the Templars, it takes place in medieval France, and yeah, it follows this one Templar named Landry, and yeah, it's a big hunt and search for the Holy Grail, and you have all these various different factions who are looking to find the Holy Grail and use it for their own means, whether for good or for evil. So yeah, I think if you like that whole thing of, you know, good versus evil, very much like on Game of Thrones, I think you'll really like Nightfall. And next, Outlander. Oh my goodness, Outlander, definitely one of my favorites on this whole list that I have. Outlander, I think sometimes has been unfairly called the female Game of Thrones. Like women don't watch Game of Thrones, but hey, they'll watch Outlander. I think that's a bit unfair in some ways, because Outlander is so much more, you know, than the female Game of Thrones. I think that's a bit silly. But yeah, Outlander, it follows this woman named Claire Randall. Her and her husband played by Tobias Menzies, who plays Edmure Tully on a Game of Thrones, so you have some Game of Thrones connections there. It's about this woman and her husband. They're going like on their second honeymoon in Scotland, but she comes across some standing stones, these mysterious standing stones, and she gets sucked into the stones and she's transported to like the 1700s Scotland, where she doesn't know what's going on. She has to make her way in this new environment, and yeah, these clans of Scotsmen that are kind of warring with each other, and yeah, the Battle of Culloden is on the horizon, if you know anything about that. And yeah, it is a romance for the most part. It's about her relationship with Jamie Fraser. And yeah, this is based off of a series of books by Diana Gabaldon. And it currently has 3 seasons right now. They're in the middle of filming their 4th season. And yeah, I love Outlander, you guys. It is so good. Yeah, definitely has a very female-heavy focus, which I appreciated. Next, Taboo, starring Tom Hardy. This may seem like a strange choice for this list, but what Taboo is essentially about, I mean, it is this whole dynamic of power and control between Tom Hardy's character and the East India Trading Company, because the East India Trading Company, they're kind of after something specifically. They're after like this island, but Tom Hardy is like in possession of this island, I think. I'm trying to remember. I watched the show a long time ago. I'm trying to remember all the details here, but yeah, Tom Hardy's character in the East India Trading Company, you know, they're at odds with each other, and yeah, things get kind of, you know, really intense between them, because he's really plotting and scheming and maneuvering, you know, to try and outwit the East India Trading Company at their own game, you know. So it's very clever and well done, I think, and I really like seeing Tom Hardy in it. Next, Versailles. And this is a show that currently has 2 seasons. It takes place in, I believe it's like 1700s, France, at the castle of Versailles, following King Louis, oh dear, which is he? King Louis the 14th? Is it King Louis the 14th? I should have done some more research for this video, you guys. I didn't realize I would forget some of these things so quickly. But yeah, Versailles, it's about the Palace of Versailles, following King Louis the 14th, if I got the right Louis. There's so many of those Louis. And yeah, it currently has 2 seasons. In America, it airs on the Ovation channel, because I think it's like a Canadian show, I want to say, so I think it might air in other countries too. I really love Versailles. If you love the Tutors and the Borgias, I think Versailles is definitely something you can check out. Versailles, it definitely has that sexiness, it has the politics and the political intrigue, and yeah, definitely, you know, the French monarchy and whatnot. So yeah, it's definitely up there, I think, if you love the Tutors and the Borgias. It's pretty much the same sort of thing. Next, I have some shows here that are a bit more on the lighter fun side of things, you know, because Game of Thrones is a very dark and dramatic and brutal show to watch. And, you know, every now and then you want to watch things that do have a medieval type of setting, but a bit more lighter and fun, you know, not as dark and brutal. So yeah, one of my first recommendations is the CW show Reign. Reign, I think a lot of people think of Reign as being really stupid and just for young adults, but I think there's so much more to Reign. I mean, you do have to get past that first season. I think once you get past that first season, I think the show definitely grows up and it matures. And it follows a young Mary Queen of Scots when she starts in France, and then eventually she moves back to Scotland. Yeah, her relationship with King Francis, and yeah, her rivalry with her cousin Queen Elizabeth I. And yeah, there's, like I said, Reign, it does start to get a certain maturity as it progresses through the seasons. It's not just for young adults, it's not just for silly teenage girls, there is a lot more to it. And quite honestly, when Reign was on, I think it was one of the better CW shows, considering just kind of the rest of their lineup that they have on there. I think Reign was seriously one of their best shows, and I think they canceled it too soon. It did have 4 seasons, I think. It did have 4 seasons, but then, yeah, got canceled, which I think was a little unfair, because I think they needed another season. And like I said, it's a bit lighter, it's a bit fun, but it still has that very captivating political intrigue that you're looking for, especially if you do like that sort of thing in Game of Thrones. And then, yeah, we have Robin Hood and Merlin, which are both BBC shows. These might seem like odd choices to put on this list as well, but like I said, I wanted to put a few lighter things on here, you know, especially if you just want to get away from the darker stuff of Game of Thrones. And yeah, BBC's Robin Hood and Merlin, I love these shows. They are just so cute and funny. They are a little cheesy. They're a little cheesy and silly, but that's okay. You gotta get over it. But I adore these shows. Robin Hood obviously being about the story of Robin Hood, and Merlin obviously being about the story of Merlin and his relationship with Arthur, and everything at Camelot and, you know, kind of medieval England and whatnot. So, yeah, I think if you love Samwell Tarly, let me draw this comparison. If you love Samwell Tarly on Game of Thrones, then Robin Hood and Merlin might be your cup of tea. If you're kind of looking for that sort of thing, you know, the type of character that Sam is, that's the best way to describe Robin Hood and Merlin. And then I have one last recommendation here that I almost forgot about because I have it in small print down here in my notes. Turn, Washington's Spies. This almost seems like a weird choice for this list as well, but I think if you like Game of Thrones, you would definitely like Turn, Washington's Spies. And yeah, it's about the American Revolutionary War, the war between England and America. And yeah, that whole rivalry there, and yeah, all these battles that happen, and yeah, notorious figures during this war like George Washington and Benedict Arnold, Major John Andre, yeah, just all of these people. Yeah, Hamilton makes, if you love Hamilton, Hamilton makes an appearance. Yeah, just a lot of amazing historical figures, and historical figures that I wasn't even aware of, and I'm aware of them now through this show. And yeah, a lot with espionage. It follows the Culpeper ring, which was Washington's spies, and yeah, how they weave in and out of events going on and change the course of the war and whatnot. So I think if you like Game of Thrones, this might be a show for you. So that's it for this very long recommendation video, you guys. There's so many shows here, and I have watched all of them, and I seriously do love every single one of these shows. And like I said, if you're missing Game of Thrones and you just want to watch something on that same level, if not better, yeah, watch these shows, kind of fill that void, fill that gap. Yeah, binge them. Binge whatever you want to watch on this list. Binge it over the summer and see if you like it and enjoy it. Yeah, because I assume if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, you're just a fan of history in general, most likely. You probably do enjoy historical-based shows. And yeah, I think these would definitely be good recommendations for you, in my opinion, anyway. But yeah, are there any other shows that I should be watching? You guys know how much I love historical fiction. Are there shows that you think I would enjoy based off of this list? Just let me know. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.